Greg McDermott sat down with John Rothstein. They discussed how close Mac was to leaving Omaha a couple of times. Jackson McAndrews and Jasen Green make his breakout players list. We discuss all that and more. It's the Roll Jays podcast.
Heads up, it's the Roll Jays podcast, the voice of the Creighton basketball fan. With your hosts, Jimmie Allen and Casey Matthews. Join the crew and meet CU players, coaches, and a whole lot more. Now, the Roll Jays podcast. Here's Jimmie Allen.
Welcome into the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pepper Jack's Grill and Pyramid Contractors. Jimmie Allen, Casey Matthews with you today. Casey, it's been a while since we've been able to catch up and do an episode. I'm glad we're able to do this together today.
Yeah, I'm fired up, man. We're also fired up to have Pepper Jack's kind of back, I guess. They sponsored us the Big East tournament, and now to have him back for a full year, we're excited. And I'm going to lunch right after this, so who knows? Maybe you'll see me at the grill.
There you go. 10 great locations throughout the Omaha area. If you're watching locally, stop by. John Rothstein sat down and caught up with Greg McDermott. Really the first time they've been able to talk since Mac has kind of alluded to what his succession plan has been, and Alan Huss coming back to Omaha. But they brought up a couple of different things, and they started off talking about Creighton's jump from the Big East from the Missouri Valley to the Big East. And John Rothstein brought up the fact that Creighton really seemed to do that seamlessly. And Max said a lot of the reason that was is because before they made the jump, Bruce Rasmussen had done such a good job of implementing the different facilities and the practice facility and the weight room and things like that into the program before they made that jump. Casey, you were on the staff kind of when that was happening. What was the reaction, maybe even from guys that didn't decide to come to Creighton, about the facilities in Omaha?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough that I actually got here, when everything was established, and they had been in the Big East for a few years, but I think that we're still reaping the rewards from Raz, and that's something where, like, I really think is interesting is in this day and age with NIL and with everything else that's going on, rev share, I guess, starting today, like leadership at the institutional level and athletic department level is so important. And even looking back, having somebody like Raz kind of guiding the ship was so valuable and really has put Creighton in the position that they're in now. Obviously, the coaching staff for all the different teams, not just basketball, has done their part. But having Raz's leadership, I mean, I just don't think you can talk about it enough of just his foresight into what was coming. Now, in terms of recruiting and how that plays a factor, I'm actually a little different on this. I don't think facilities make as big of a difference anymore. I think they did. Well,
just because everybody's caught up.
Money. Yeah. I think it's all about money now. And so like certainly like it can, I think it can prevent you from getting a kid, but I don't think it's going to get you a kid. And now, like, think back, like Clemson football, right? Remember there's that huge deal a couple of years ago about them, and they have the slide and their facility. All that stuff is cool, right? But at the end of the day, it's about how much money they're going to make, and are they going to play? Do they see their future in terms of, because like we've talked about before, every kid thinks they're an NBA player.
Yeah.
Do they think that this staff can get them to the NBA? Those things really matter more so than facilities. So I think the key point there is just like, yeah, it can certainly, like, if you walk into, a Creighton versus, another school that doesn't have as nice of a facility, it can certainly hurt you, but there's other ways now to overcome that.
Well, and I think the majority of the recruiting battles Creighton's getting into, they're also probably getting into those recruiting battles with schools that have pretty close to the same level of facilities as well.
Yeah, you would at least expect that. But like, it's interesting, right? Because honestly, I don't think Creighton's facilities are as nice as other teams in our league.
Sure.
And it's not because we don't have any commitment to it. It's just because it's been built, and it's now one of the older ones. So I'm interested to see how we move forward with that. I think that they're probably in line and due for some upgrades. I think the weight room is something where, we don't have football, so that's a benefit. But the weight room is shared by every team. If you can get to a place where maybe just basketball has their own weight room, things like that can just set you up. It just incremental, improvements. Those sorts of things can help. But we could nitpick, right? We're blessed to have the facilities that we have. I think the McDermott Center is awesome. But I would look to us to maybe make some improvements that could. Again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's just more of like even the playing field back up.
Cherry on top type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I want to bring up something you just mentioned. You talked about not having football, and I had the ability to interview Marcus Blossom on my radio show. I think it was like 2 years ago, and he had just brought up that I had asked about football kind of tongue in cheek, and he goes, "Well, you're kidding yourself if you don't think it's a constant discussion about the possibilities." And how do you think adding a Division I football program to Creighton University, obviously kind of a moot point because it's a what if situation, but how do you think that would change the dynamic at Creighton? Because I think it's worth a discussion now because of rev sharing and the fact that UConn, who is a perennial national championship powerhouse in men's basketball, is still allotting over 80% of their revenue sharing to their football team that did win 9 games a year ago, but still has not really been a factor of any sort from a national championship standpoint in the football ranks. So my question is, how do you think what do you think would have to happen for Creighton to add football to the equation, and how would that change really the dynamic of that school in your opinion?
Well, I think what would have to happen would be a lot of people would have to make a really bad decision.
Yeah, I agree, by the way.
I think it would be an absolute disaster. And the reason a lot of it is that, I mean, Jimmie, look at around where we live in Nebraska. What's the term? The J-Skurs, right?
Right.
There are so many Creighton fans that are also Nebraska football fans. I have zero appetite for it. I think when you look at like UConn, for instance, there's some people that might want to argue that UConn football is a big deal. I don't.
I don't know who would argue that.
When you look at
maybe Jim Mora might argue that.
But look at the commitment they're making to basketball and NIL. I think that tells you like this league and the teams that are in this league understand, what's important. Like Butler. Butler has a football team, but it's, I don't even know if it's scholarship. But I just think it would be an absolute disaster. The hypothetical would just be there's so many factors. Like, where do you play? How do you fund it? Like, it just, to me, it's better to just leave it alone. We are what we are, and there's a lot of value to that. And so I hope that discussion is never advanced.
Well, one of the other things that came up in Rothstein's interview.
Hold on, Jim. What do you think? Are you in the same page?
The only thing that I wonder about is does the demand of TV make it a necessity, right? Like, there's so much money being allocated from TV networks across the Power 5 in football that obviously when we talk about basketball, it's the Power 6 or the Power 4 in football and the Power 5 in basketball. When you add the Big East into that discussion, like, does the money drive the demand for the supply? Do we start talking about the fact that the Big East could make so much more money that it doesn't matter if it's necessarily a bad product or not necessarily on the level of the men's basketball, a la kind of where we see the Big 12 to some degree, and now really the Pac-12, that it doesn't have to necessarily be an overall positive product, but it's going to generate enough revenue that it changes the discussion completely, because that's kind of where a lot of these schools are at.
Yeah, but at some point, though, you got to get people to watch it, right?
You do, but I mean, you had over 8 million people watching a crappy preseason football game last night. So
yeah,
it's America.
I don't know. I get it. I don't see it. I don't.
If 8 million people are going to turn on the TV to watch Trey Lance, I'm sure they'd watch a really bad college.
I'm a big Trey Lance guy. I'm a former Bison, so I'm a big Trey Lance guy. I hope
somebody's got to be, I guess. So
yeah, man, I love Trey. But
he only fumbled 2 snaps last night.
That's all right. That's all right. He's going to be fine. It's preseason, Jimmie. It's preseason. I'm not a Chargers fan. I'm a huge Dolphins fan, for anybody that's whatever reason curious. But and so it's not like we don't have our own quarterback woes. But no, I just don't. I think it would take so long to build up the product and build up the following that I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze, man. I really
And,
don't.
and again, it's all going to be based on what that squeeze is. I'm with you, and I agree. But if it gets to the point where Fox or whoever comes calling and says, "You guys would add football, we could probably move this decimal a couple spaces to the right," it
Yeah.
may change the narrative.
But I mean, I know that people love football. I love football, but is there really an appetite for Big East football? Like, I don't
I mean, you
know,
got to remember what
man.
the brand used to be. I mean, when we talk about maybe the greatest college football season of all time in 2007, it was kind of driven by what the Big East was at the time. Now, again, that was South Florida and Louisville and Rutgers, and there was a whole lot into that equation that really doesn't involve the Big East anymore. But Big East football was, and West Virginia was in that equation with Rich Rodriguez and Pat White and those guys. So there was there was a time where Big East football, specifically in that 2007 season, was the craziest season in college football. You had, what was it, 15 weeks where the number 1 or number 2 team lost every single week for 13 weeks. Like, a lot of that was centered around what was happening in the Big East at the time. Now, the landscape of the Big East has changed entirely since then.
Mhm.
And you've got a bunch of predominantly basketball schools that don't have those football brands. But I think there's still some value around Big East football for what it was.
Yeah. Well, count me in the camp that doesn't want it. So
Let's go back to the
we'll
Rothstein interview for a second, because one of the things that got brought up, speaking of football schools, was Ohio State and Mac. And I think this was public knowledge, but openly admitted that the Buckeyes had come calling more than one time, and he said that his agent was always taking phone calls. And if you're a head coach, and even if you love your job, I mean, if you're Mike Krzyzewski or whoever, and you've been at your school for as long as Mac has, it's still a good idea to take that phone call, because when contract negotiations and things like that come up, great idea to have that kind of in your back pocket. And hey, it's always nice to feel wanted, right? But Mac alluded to the fact that, hey, Ohio State was probably as close as it ever got, and it was never really that close. But yeah, I did take a couple of those calls, but I'm really happy to still be at Creighton. And I think for Creighton fans that kind of held their breath for a long time until that spot in Columbus got filled, a few times, it's nice to know that your worries were a little bit warranted. But the fact that Mac, was really happy where he was, and a lot of the reason why he stayed in Omaha.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to listen, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
Ohio
you'd be
State.
dumb not to.
And I think the other thing too is that was a few years ago. Max had quite a few, or at least a couple, contract renegotiations during this gap. That's probably left him in a much better situation financially, and being rewarded for what he's built here.
Yeah.
I think it would be fair to say that at that time he was really still building the program to what it is now, and had the opportunity to maybe jump somewhere that was a little more established, and at least in their league. And he chose to stay here. And I think that it's a testament to, obviously to Raz again. It's a testament to the university and to the fans, and just the belief that he could build what he's built now, and the foresight to know like what this program could be. So I think it's neat. I think it's, I was high. Mac hired me. Oh, I think it was the same off season that he had been talking to Ohio State prior. I got hired later in the cycle, and I remember asking him, like, was that real? And he was like, yeah, it was very real. I had some conversations. I didn't never really was like all in with Ohio State, but certainly listening, entertaining the idea. And so I remember having that conversation with him, and I remember him telling me like, this place is special, and I really like the team that we have here. I really like what we can do here. And so at that time I didn't know him very well, right? So was really just sort of learning him. And what I learned really quickly is how much he loves Creighton, and how much he was investing himself personally into the program, into the community, and how much that meant to him. And that was really neat for a guy just joining a program, joining a team, trying to figure out what it's all about, wanting to be a part of the culture, and understanding pretty quickly on that he turned down a lot more money.
Big job.
Yeah, a lot more money to stay somewhere because he believed in what it could become. And I think we'd be silly not to think like the pressure there at Ohio State is
Immensely more.
insane. You know,
Well,
they've gone.
you're walking in with no no collateral, right? Like you haven't proven anything there. What you did at your last spot essentially means
Yeah.
nothing after the first year. Because
Yeah, and
you weren't here in Omaha when Dana Altman was building this program up to the little engine that could in Omaha to the perennial power in the Missouri Valley that it ended up being that allowed Mac to kind of take it on and move it over. But the day that Dana took the job and left for Arkansas, there was a legitimate fear around the city of Omaha that we'll never see Creighton basketball get anywhere near the mid-level of the Missouri Valley, let alone be able
really,
to usher an era into the Big East. And obviously Dana ends up coming back, but I think a lot of people kind of let that worry slide after he came back, and it was like, okay, this just happens in college athletics because obviously, Dana was from here, from Nebraska, and never any no like I remember having a conversation with my friend John, like, there's no reason he would ever leave, like, because a couple schools had come calling for him, and then obviously, if you haven't watched the Dana Altman woo pig suey moment, feel free to go back and watch that because it was one of the more awkward moments in the history of sports. And obviously, within a few hours, came back to Omaha, and it was like, okay, well, maybe we'll have him here for the longevity. But obviously, he ends up taking the job at Oregon. It's a completely different story. But Mac talked a couple weeks ago or months, I guess it's a couple months ago at this point now, about the life preserver that Creighton threw him, and obviously didn't go the way he thought it should have or thought it could have at Iowa State, and was able to find a second home and a second chance at Creighton, and it's clearly worked out for everybody in consideration. But I think when we talk about his thought around leaving, probably what happened in Ames and how it didn't go well, and the gratitude he has for the second chance at Creighton probably played into those decisions as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the one thing you can say about Coach is he's super loyal, and it's going to take a lot for him to, or say it would have taken a lot for him to leave here when, he knew he still had work to do and he still had things to do here. And so that's who he is. I mean, I wasn't here for Altman. It's funny you're bringing this up because I was just with Coach Crutchfield the other day at Omaha, and I was talking to him about, just sort of coming here, whatever. And he got into talking about Altman, and we were just talking stories about old coaches we've worked for. And he started talking about Coach Altman. And he said, he's like, he's so loved in this community.
Still is
a huge part of Crutch getting the Omaha job. I only say that to say that to come into a place and replace somebody like a Coach Altman and be able to build that same level of trust, that same level of appreciation that as the person he replaced had, it takes somebody that's really special. It takes somebody that embraces the community, but also embraces his predecessor. And that's something I got a chance to see with Coach Mack. I mean, Coach Altman would come watch practices. Mack never, obviously had never had an issue with that. He'd sit and watch and talk. And it was clear that,
listen, it helps Dana and his home state to come back here. The fact that Mac didn't really slip up and the program even excelled after he left. Because if he leaves and this program tanks, that respect and love for Dana Altman probably goes in a completely different direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some validity to that. I think the interesting thing is like Mac understanding that it's not just like turning the page to a new era as much as it was just like continuing the same book in the sense.
And having that foresight's important because not everybody would look at it that way.
No, it's great, man. It was a great example to me. And I think it's a great example to everybody that has worked for him and really kind of fed into a lot of the success that these guys are having that have left after working for Coach and understanding like there's a lot of value in bringing stuff. You still have to kind of be your own person, be your own coach, but there's a lot of value in bringing the culture that's established here with you wherever it is that you're going to next. So it's definitely a testament to him.
It's the Roll Jays podcast brought to you by Pepper Jack's Grill and Pyramid Contractors. John Rothstein went on to label Jackson McAndrews and Jasen Green as his breakout players for Creighton this year. We're going to discuss what that means on the other side of the break.
This is why you need to try Pepper Jack's Grill, the best Philly cheesesteak in America. At Pepper Jack's Grill, we craft your Philly just the way you like it. Fresh ingredients, sizzling on the grill, and endless customization options. Not just Phillies, we've got rice bowls, burritos, nachos, and even vegetarian choices. And don't forget those crispy fries with our famous spicy ranch. With 10 great locations in Omaha, there's a delicious meal waiting for everyone in the family. Pepper Jack's Grill, your Philly, your way.
At Pyramid Contractors, we do it all. From repairing or replacing your roof to updating siding, windows, or gutters. When you have a home improvement project, call Pyramid Contractors.
PyramidRoof.com, never settle for less.
Welcome back inside the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pepper Jack's Grill and Pyramid Contractors. In case we were talking about John Rothstein's interview with Greg McDermott in the previous segment, and the other thing that he put out was his breakout players in the Big East, and he had two of the Jays on his list. He had Jackson McAndrew and Jasen Green. I think a lot of people might look at that as an interesting standpoint because Jasen's had two pretty convincingly big seasons in Omaha already. Obviously, Jackson McAndrew heading into his sophomore year. The thing that I thought was noteworthy of our interview with Jeff Vanderloo 2 weeks ago was how he mentioned that Jasen Green has moved down and is playing the 5 now in the absence of Owen Freeman with the knee injury, and obviously also so is Isaac Trout. I think those two guys having that flexibility and maybe even rotating in and maybe even seeing both those guys at the same time play in the 4 and 5 and be interchangeable. We talked about, you brought up a lot that having a shooter like Isaac Trout playing the 5 opens up the offensive floor space. If you can have both of those guys essentially interchangeable to where the defense doesn't know which one's lining up in certain offensive sets, I think that changes the playbook entirely.
Yeah, here's what I think though. I think what it really does is allows you defensive flexibility.
Yeah,
if Jason's gonna be able to guard a 5, which because he is just bigger and stronger than Isaac in that regard, so I think he's more fit to guard a 5. Here's it with Jasen. I think this is a fascinating topic. I was really pleased that John put him on his breakout players list because I think it's fair.
And I think everybody in Omaha has been waiting for it.
Yeah, and wanting it, and I think his defensive flexibility is really intriguing. Offensively, he's an offensive rebounder, putback guy. He's not necessarily somebody you're going to throw the ball to on the block. You're not going to be drawing up many sets for Jasen to get a shot, but he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And you have to have those guys on your team that understand their role and understand what it is that they bring to the table. Certainly when the time comes and he gets his opportunity to shoot, gets the opportunity to score, he can do it, and he's shown that. But there's more skilled offensive players on the roster that you're going to have to get shots for and have sets for.
And that helps too, right? Bringing in the guys like Nick, like Josh, when Owen's healthy, Blake Howard, those guys, having offensive guys that can create their own offense, which Creighton's kind of lacked over the last couple of years, I think helps that mind. Like, not that Jasen didn't already have that thought process, but I think it just helps guarantee him, okay, I can go out and focus on what is going to, earn my spot on this team on the defensive side of the ball. I don't even have to worry about hunting shots because all these other guys are certified score makers.
Well, there's that, but I think the other side of that too, though, now is Blake Harper can play the 4.
Yep.
So if you need to, like, let's just say, I don't think they're even worried about Owen for the start of the season. I think he's gonna be just fine. But just say
I hear you, and I just want to caution Jays fans. Like, I really hope they give him as much time as he absolutely needs to. With the non-con being the way it is, like, I wouldn't hate if Owen sat until Gonzaga. Now that's a lot to ask somebody to come back in that first game against that level of an opponent. But the fact is like we've seen guys rush back from knee injuries and end up re-tearing it or tearing the other knee up because they were trying to compensate for the previous injury. I hope they give him as much time as he needs to, because I think he's a pivotal point, especially when we get to the meat and potatoes of the season.
Oh, he absolutely is. I would just tell you this. Maybe it's blind faith and trust. I don't know. But with Jeremy Anderson there, I
agree. Yeah, I agree. I'm just like, go put him in bubble wrap and let him sit for as long as you need to. So I think we're gonna need him.
Sure. I know what you're saying. I would just, I guess, say if he's on the court, he's healthy, and they're not going to take chances with that.
Well,
Well,
but that doesn't mean because of the injury you're not going to start compensating for where you were, weeks ago. We see athletes do that all the time. That
For sure,
it's
but
it's not a lack of management that I'm worried about. That's a big body that's recompensating from a knee injury, and we see how many times that just reoccurs.
yeah, but I think that's where you have to have the trainer. You have to have
Yeah.
a strength and conditioning coach that understands that, and we do. So I just don't have that same level of concern if he's on the court. Now, what that also tells you though is this: if he's not on the court, there's a reason,
Yep.
and they are being cautious with them. So I think that they'll be fine there. But I think the bigger picture, when you're looking at this from like the reps right now that they're getting in practice, I still think it's good for our team long term to be able to have Jasen play some of that 5, have Blake play the 4. It gives you some more time, more reps with the starters for Austin. Like I like all of it, and I think that it's an opportunity that we hopefully will grow from. But long term, I think it's a great opportunity for Jasen, and I think it's going to allow him to have an even bigger role once the season starts and really gets rolling.
Which is the exact opposite of his last 2 off seasons, by the way.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, man, as far as Jackson, I mean, we've been calling for this.
Yeah, he might be all right with this basketball thing.
Yeah, he's pretty good, man. So I do agree. He should be on the breakout list. There's no doubt about that. I think his upside and his ceiling is higher than we even maybe think it is. And so I'm super excited about that and kind of what that's going to allow us to do. So we're talented, man. We are talented, and I just love the fact that these guys are having to compete and earn their spots. That's not a team that just is 6-7 people deep. This is a team that there's going to be guys that don't play minutes that are good enough to play.
Might be looking at 9 deep in this roster. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice problem to have.
It has been the Roll Jays podcast, brought to you by Pepper Jack's Grill and Pyramid Contractors. Case, I'm glad you're back from vacation. We can start knocking more of these out. We're going to have a couple more coaches interviews. We didn't even get to it. Mitch Ballock is officially on the staff as a full-time assistant. We've got 2 new graduate assistants. Excited to get to know those guys as well. We'll have those interviews coming up with you throughout the summer as we get ready for tip-off of the season in October. This has been the Roll Jays podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Big East Energy to keep up to date on all of your Big East men's basketball news. Also, give this video a like and thumbs up. We appreciate it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
This is why you need to try Pepper Jack's Grill, the best Philly cheesesteak in America. At Pepper Jack's Grill, we craft your Philly just the way you like it. Fresh ingredients, sizzling on the grill, and endless customization options. Not just Phillies, we've got rice bowls, burritos, nachos, and even vegetarian choices. And don't forget those crispy fries with our famous spicy ranch. With 10 great locations in Omaha, there's a delicious meal waiting for everyone in the family. Pepper Jack's Grill, your Philly, your way.
At Pyramid Contractors, we do it all. From repairing or replacing your roof to updating siding, windows, or gutters. When you have a home improvement project, call Pyramid Contractors.
Pyramid